Good afternoon, Achan. Today I'm going to summarize about language learning theories. And the first part, I'm going to talk about what are learning theories and why are learning theories important. So learning theory are the foundation for designing instructional situation to achieve desired learning outcome. These concepts based on Beth O. Yasun and Sherry Conklin. And why are learning theories important? Because learning theories help teachers to find the appropriate approaches, strategies, methods, techniques to get the student engaged in learning and produce the good outcome. And the second one, I'm going to describe about the differences between L1 and L2. L1 we refer to first language or mother tongue, and L2 we refer to second language or target language. For L1 learners, they learn fast and easily with contact environment. They can complete and fluent in language in 5 years. If no physical and brain disability, student or learner interaction with people can let L1 succeed equally. Normally, L1 learning objective is competent, then performance without classes. Most of the students, they have no fossilization because there is no obstacle, no filters during acquire or learn the first language. And they know language accuracy whether they don't join the class, but they can produce the language, they can make the sentence clearly and accurately. There is no emotional feeling inspiration factor as well. Talking about L2, the second language, students may get stuck according to their L1 learning process. Sometimes they can communicate well, but they still make many grammatical errors. I mean the lack of grammar points. And however, they study at the same time. For L2 learner, they still have different abilities because they will have the ability differently in the individualist. And L2 learner concerned fluent in communication and they don't care about the grammars. And most of the students they got like fossilization that may happen in the class because there are many obstacles, many mistakes that might happen or they may lose confidence in learning the second language. Whether they join the class or they don't join the class, they still cannot make the sentence correctly and accurately. And they need all factors to study L2 or second language. Many factors that influence are important for them. And third, I'm going to talk about L1 learning theories. Let's go to the theory number one is the behaviorism learning theory was largely influenced by psychologist B.F. Skinner. And this theory suggests that we learn behaviors through external forces than internal forces. And things like repeated action, reward, or punishment are ultimately what shape our learning. Or B.F. Skinner, he talked about the stimulate, learning and reinforcement. As the teacher, we have to provide the input, inspiration, interesting lesson in order the student to learn, and then give the reward. We have the punishment. We have positive punishment or negative punishment to check whether the student can learn or not. And two, I'm talking about innatism learning theories based on Noam Chomsky. In this theory, Noam Chomsky believes that the children are born with knowledge. And based on the theory of universal grammars, Noam Chomsky, he believed in three things about the human or the children. First one, every child know basic rule of grammars in the brain already. Two, all languages follow similar grammar structures like noun, verb, adjectives. Third one, kids don't make expected grammatical error because they already pick up the language from their parents. In this part, Chomsky he believed that inside the brain of the kid, I mean they have the language acquisition device, they have the block of the brain of the ability of knowledge that they know what to use the language already. And all this one will affect by the like social and psychology factor for the learners of L1 learners. And three, I'm talking about cognitive wisdom learning theories based on Jean Piaget. These theories focus on child development. And Piaget, he's accused that there is no language acquisition device. The learner want to learn is talking about three things. The first one is the readiness, second one the cognitive, and the third one is social. They mean the learner they can learn the language effectively based on the readiness. If they are ready, they can learn it. In this part, Jesus he divide into four part about intellectual development theories. The first one, he talking about the sensory motor. Sensory motor is talking about the age from they were born until 2 years old. In this period, the kid they don't produce any words. They just make a movement or they just feel talking about senses. And second one talking about pre-operational stage. In this period from 2 to 7 years, at this time the kid they just recognize the symbol. Sometimes they know the few words or they can make sentences. So talking about the concrete operational from 7 to 11 years old, at this time the kid they have the ability to think. They mean the thinking skill. In this part they can think logically based on the realistic what they can see. First, talking about the formal operational from 11 years old up. In this part, the kid they or children they can know the abstract hypothesis. They can give the reason. This is the first part that I'm going to talk about L2 learning theories based on Carson hypothesis. In this part, we have five talking about the L2 learning theories. The first one talking about the acquisition learning hypothesis. And this part, we're talking about the acquired system but based on the natural learning and learn system based on the formal learning. And another one is the monitor hypothesis. In this part, we're talking about the learn system that based on the observation like planning, editing, and correcting. Third, I'm talking about the natural order hypothesis. In this part, they're talking about the way the student get the grammatical or they can predict by the age, they can use the language because from L1 to L2, based on the background, exposure, when they meet the people, they can use the language like whether at school or at home and individual differences. First, talking about the input hypothesis, I plus one comprehensible input for the teachers. We have to make providers challenge tasks for the student because in the class we have slow learner and fast learner. So in order to avoid the boring class, teacher have to use I plus one the challenge task. And number five, talking about the affective filter hypothesis. In this one, talking about the student mind, social, how we got inspiration, no mentor to acquire the language. We have to think about this one like the confident, positive mind, and no mentor block, something like that. So this is the last part. I'm talking about the learning style. So learning style here, let's talk to about number one is cognitive style. In cognitive style, we have different scholar and theorists like Wikin, Moore, Goodenough, and Cole, Robin, and McIntyre. He divide the learning style into four types. Like divergent, the student who can set imagination, do something by himself or by themselves. Assimilative, talking about a student who don't want to perform but they know the theory. And next one is convergent. Convergent is kind of student who likes to work with the object but they don't want to participate or work with the people. Accommodation, talking about the student who love to do the experiment, explore by themselves, do something by themselves. Fleming, he divide the learning style into four tabs. The first one talking about the visual learning, learning by seeing. They mean the student learn best when they can see the pictures or image or write on the board, something like that. And the second one is auditory learning. They mean learning by hearings. Like they learn best when they hear the information, like listening to the music, listen to the radio or podcast, something like that. The next one is reading and writing learning. I mean learning by word or with word. I mean student learn best when they can write down, list down, or read something like that, read the book, uh, something like this. Yeah. And another one is kinesthetic learning. That means the student learn well by moving the body, like role play, acting, something like this. The second one, I'm talking about the behaviorism styles. Man, he divide the learning style into eight tab. The first one, compliant. It's kind of the student who want to do something based on the comment. Second one, the answers dependent. The student who worry about assignment, I mean they cannot do something like that, always worries. And the third one, the discouraged workers, the student who doesn't want or doesn't appreciate themselves, cannot do by they say that they are not satisfied with himself or herself, they cannot do, always have the negative thinking about the feedback, something like this. Another one, the independent. I mean, the student they are good at doing by themselves, so creative, confident. They working well. Heroes, talking about the student who are popular among their friends. Sometimes they are strong, emotional, strong leadership. And snappers, it's kind of student who got very negative thinking. They got furious, so angry, and get conflict with everyone, with teachers and with his friends, something like this. And another one is attention seeking. It's kind of student who want to make friend with everyone, whether slow learner or fast learner. They just want to make friends. And the last one is talking about the silent. Silent is kind of student who doesn't want to join any learning activity in the class. Let's go to talk about the different scholar like Grasha and Richmond. He divide into six type of a learning style. The first one, independent, like the student want to do something by themselves. Dependent, like the student need guidance, need help from teachers and from their friends. Collaborative, like student want to work in group, to join with their friends, share ideas, something like that. Avoidance, they don't want to join, they always skip, don't want to do anything. And com competitive, I mean they want to compete, they want to challenge, they want to get score, or they want to get promoted, something like this. And the last one is participant, is kind of student who want to participate, to join with the friend, with class, to do something activity in the class, whatever that they like doing with like to answer the question, to join the group, something we call participation. Thank you for your time. And